Let's remind you about our breaking news this hour. The Constitutional Court in Johannesburg has ruled that Stellenbosch University's language policy, which stipulates using English and Afrikaans interchangeably as mediums of instruction, is constitutionally justified.
The former Afrikaans University says the aim of its language policy is to ensure equal access, multilingualism and integration. However, lobby group AfriForm says the policy is unconstitutional and unfair to mother tongue Afrikaans speakers.
In sum, this court finds that it is permissible under Section 29 sub 2, where tuition is being offered in an official language of choice at a public educational institution, to diminish that offering while not extinguishing it in order to enhance equitable access for those not conversant in that language when the institution shows the cost of non-diminution too high. A separate concurrence by the Chief Justice, with Cameron J. concurring, agrees that it was neither reasonably practicable nor equitable to maintain the position as it was before the 2016 policy came into being. Additionally, the understanding and application of reasonable practicability and the need for equitable access to education stood to be guided by this court's articulation of these principles in AfriForm versus Free State University. His concurrence also emphasizes the need to develop all indigenous languages, including the spoken languages of the First Nation people. The Chief Justice further appeals to corporate citizens' spirit of generosity to help preserve Afrikaans and develop other indigenous languages as its essential tools for knowledge impartation and comprehension by deploying resources to the establishment of private learning institutions envisaged by Section 29(3) of the Constitution. I wrote a further concurring judgment with which Cameron J. also concurred in both English and Afrikaans that agrees with both the reasoning and the outcome of the first judgment. My concurrence draws out the implication of the entrenchment of English dominance as a medium of instruction for the diminished use and protection of minority indigenous languages. It sounds the caution that we should not give up on the Constitution's dream of using our own languages in all spheres of life. In the result, the following order is made. 1. Leave to appeal is granted. 2. The appeal is dismissed, with no order as to costs in this court. 3. The costs orders in the High Court are set aside. 4. In their place is substituted, quote, there is no order as to costs. I hand down the judgment.
Well, the organization Gelyke Kanse had appealed against the university's decision, and this is what their attorney had to say.
First of all, we need to look at the 2014 policy, which provided for Afrikaans and English on equal footing at Stellenbosch University. They then implemented a new language policy, 2016, which really followed on the back of two court orders in terms whereof they had to properly implement the 2014 language policy. 2016 policy provided for Afrikaans and English not to be on equal footing anymore. In other words, Afrikaans would be diminished. Okay, so primarily English will be taught there. There should be, in terms of a 2016 policy, provision for Afrikaans, but not equally with English. So we applied to the High Court. The application was dismissed to have a 2016 policy set aside, and then we appealed to the Constitutional Court. As you know, we received leave to appeal. However, the appeal was dismissed. The meaning of it really would now come into the implementation of the 2016 policy. We've heard that it was in general an anonymous judgment, but there were three separate judgments. In other words, and I don't quite know the split. I was in court to listen to it. We'll read the written judgment. But some of the judges added to the judgments. And it sounds to me it relates to probably the implementation, how it's being implemented, and whether Stellenbosch University will now implement the 2016 policy. So the disappointment for us comes in the fact that we feel that the policy might not adequately provide, not only for Afrikaans, but also for the development of other indigenous languages on tertiary level, academically.
And Danny, do you feel that the 2016 language policy diminishes the use of Afrikaans in tertiary institutions?
Yeah, it's not actually me or Gelyke Kanse that feels that. The university acknowledged that because Afrikaans and English isn't in the equal footing anymore. But what we do feel, it naturally, most of the university, besides Potch, are already English. Potch University, Northwest Potch campus is still Afrikaans. But this will have, in our view, a detrimental effect for Afrikaans, and not only Afrikaans, but all indigenous other languages bar English.
Danny, where do you think the movement needs to go in terms of developing not just Afrikaans, but also other indigenous languages?
I think what needs to be looked at by the universities now would be the new language policy for tertiary education, which is about to be issued by the Department of Tertiary Education. And that policy specifically provides for the development of other languages as well, not only Afrikaans, but all indigenous languages academically. So movement-wise, as far as Gelyke Kanse is concerned, I think that's the end of the road, but the university should look at that policy and start looking at developing other indigenous languages. We always talk about decolonizing, etc., but if they're going to continue just teaching in English, they're actually recolonizing the universities, public universities.
Speaking of universities, we had a very interesting conversation off air around AfriForm announcing the date of when the new or Afrikaans university will be. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think what we spoke about is a coincidence. On this date, it's actually solidarity. They've got what they call a toekomsberaad, and from what I've read in the media, they would be announcing the launch of an Afrikaans university for approximately 6,000 students. The media statement refers to 1.5 billion rand being invested in that. And I would imagine that's probably the result of what has happened in the public university sector, where everything changes to English. So it's something to look at. I think that's a natural flow of how things have developed over the years.
All right. You've been granted leave to appeal. You'll study the judgment. What's the way forward?
Well, we were granted leave to appeal, but the appeal was dismissed. So we will now study the judgment. Hopefully, University of Stellenbosch will also study the judgment, because from what I've heard in court, there's going to be a watchful eye to see what is happening with the implementation. So yes, we are disappointed, but I think there's work, especially for the students themselves, to do at Stellenbosch University.